We talk a lot about the front teeth that bite and the back teeth that grind. But what about those unsung heroes stuck right in the middle? Well, today, we're going to take a guided tour of your premolar anatomy. We're going to explore the powerhouse bicuspid teeth you probably never think about. Let's get right into it. So let me ask you a question. What are the real unsung heroes of your smile? I mean, sure, the incisors get all the credit for biting into an apple, and the molars are famous for grinding things down, but what about those crucial teeth that bridge that gap? And here they are. Meet the premolars, sometimes called bicuspids. They're perfectly positioned right between your sharp canines and those broad molars, kind of acting like the ultimate transitional tool. They take food from the canines and start the really serious work of grasping, crushing, and grinding it all down. So how many do we have? Well, a full adult set has 8. That's right, 8 of them. 2 in each quadrant of your mouth. So 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Let's get to know them a little better. Okay, here's our game plan for today, our little tour map. We'll start with the basics, then we'll check out the upper and lower premolars, see how they're different, and then wrap up with the key things you need to remember. Sound good? Let's start. All right, our first stop on the tour. What in the world are these teeth? Just think of premolars as this crucial bridge in your mouth's own little assembly line. They take the food from the tearing canines and get it all ready for the heavy-duty grinding molars. And their other name, bicuspid, actually gives you a hint about their design. Bi means 2, for the 2 main points or cusps that make them so good at their job. Okay, first up, let's head to the upper deck, your maxillary or your upper premolars. This is where the dental anatomy starts to get really distinct and honestly pretty cool. We're going to use the first maxillary premolar as our base camp. Now, here's a fun way to think about it. Imagine the tooth surface is like a miniature landscape. See those 2 main peaks? The one on the cheek side is the buccal cusp, and the one over on the tongue side is the lingual cusp. These are kind of like our landscape's 2 main mountains. And just like real mountains, our cusps have ridges. On the tooth, you can see these mountain ranges that connect everything. The marginal ridges, they form the borders. You've got the mesial towards the front of your mouth and the distal towards the back. Then you have these triangular ridges sloping down from each cusp tip, just like a mountain slope. Now let's explore the lowlands of our little landscape. Running right down the middle is the central groove, which is like a main valley, and at each end you'll find these little pits and fossae. Think of them as small craters. But here is the single most important landmark for this tooth. See that unique mesial marginal groove crossing over the ridge? That is a dead giveaway. You got to remember that one. Okay, now let's bring its neighbor into the picture, the second maxillary premolar. When you see them side by side like this, the differences really pop. What do you notice right away? I mean, look at the overall shape and check out that central groove. The one on the right just looks a little softer, right? A bit more rounded. So here's the breakdown. The first maxillary premolar is way more sharp and angular. It's defined by that long central groove and, of course, that unique groove on its mesial side. The second one, by contrast, is just softer. It's more rounded, it's got a shorter, kind of more wrinkled central groove. It's these tiny details that make each one totally unique. All right, to our group, let's head downstairs to the lower jaw and check out the mandibular premolars. These teeth have their own awesome personalities, and trust me, things get even more interesting down here. First up is the first mandibular premolar. And the first thing that should jump out at you is the huge size difference between the cusps. The buccal cusp is absolutely massive, while the lingual cusp is, well, it's tiny in comparison. It's almost like a big mountain standing right next to a small hill. Yeah, that size difference is so dramatic that it leads to a key identifying feature. Like one dental tech says, the entire occlusal surface can be seen when looking at it from the lingual surface. That tiny little lingual cusp just doesn't block the view at all. So if you can see the whole top from the tongue side, that's your tell. Now for its neighbor, the second mandibular premolar. And this one is a bit of a shapeshifter. Unlike all the others we've seen, which reliably have 2 cusps, this one can show up with either 2 or 3. And that variability makes it one of the most interesting premolars to identify. But when you get the 3 cusp version, there's one feature that is so cool and so obvious once you see it. Seriously, if you remember one thing about this tooth, make it this. It's all about the Y shape. And there it is. With one big buccal cusp and 2 smaller lingual cusps, the grooves that separate them form a perfect Y right on the biting surface. You see that pattern?
you are looking at a three-cusp second mandibular premolar. It is absolutely unmistakable.
Okay, so we've toured each tooth one by one. Let's kind of zoom out now and sum up the key differences between the uppers and the lowers, the maxillary versus the mandibular premolars. So this table breaks it down really nicely, but let's talk about what it actually means. The big takeaway for the cusps? Uppers are balanced, two cusps about the same size. Lowers are totally unbalanced, with that much smaller lingual cusp. This also changes their shape. Uppers look more blocky, more oval, while the lowers are more rounded. And finally, the surface texture. Upper premolars have a clean, defined central valley, while the lowers tend to have a lot more extra wrinkles or grooves.
So, we've covered a ton of ground. Let's distill all of this down into a quick and easy field guide, the essential takeaways from our tour today. All right, let's boil it all down to a simple cheat sheet. If it's sharp and it has that unique mesial groove, it's a first maxillary. If it's rounder and smoother, it's the second. If it has one giant cusp and one teeny tiny one, it's a first mandibular. And if you see that unmistakable Y shape, that can only be the three-cusp second mandibular. And that's it. That's your 4-point field guide.
And that completes our tour of the fascinating landscape of your premolars. See, they're not just teeth, they're these intricate little tools, each with its own unique geography. So, now that you've explored this tiny part of the human body, what are you going to explore next? Thanks for joining me.